When we started planning Elim Valley, we went to DPZ. They're the world-renowned planners of new urbanism. They wrote the book, The Suburban Nation. This was written by Andres Dwani of DPZ. DPZ is well known for designing the town Seaside, and when they designed the town of Seaside, they studied some of the most loved places in the world. And in studying the most loved places of the world, what they discovered was that there had been patterns that developed to develop these most loved towns. And these patterns developed a relationship of why people love the towns. And they wrote about these patterns in their book, Suburban Nation. Prior to World War II and the mass production of the automobile, towns had all developed over centuries, gradually, piece by piece, into a pattern. And when the automobile was mass produced, all of a sudden the way towns were planned changed dramatically. And instead of towns being planned for people, towns began to be planned for automobiles. In their designing Seaside, what they did was they went back and they studied these patterns of why people love places that they lived. And they established the patterns that once worked for people, and then they designed new towns based on people and their automobiles. So it was a huge shift of rediscovering the great ideas of what people loved about living in towns. Some of the examples of what people loved before the automobile was mass produced was that they loved living on the street. Their homes oriented toward the streets, the windows and their porches all looked towards the streets. When it was like that, they called it eyes on the street. The streets were safe. When the automobile got mass produced and cars started driving quickly down the street, people no longer wanted to live on the streets. People wanted the houses to be into cul-de-sacs. Garages started dominating the fronts of homes. The living spaces of the homes got pushed to the back of the homes, and there became a disconnect with people. It was no longer easy to walk to their shops, to their work. They didn't know their neighbors. Streets became, dominated by fast-moving automobiles, and the quality of life went away. In these old villages, what was once great was not just the home that you lived in or the place that you worked and shopped, but the experience of walking or moving from your home to the place that you shopped and worked. And in our day, the experience of going from our homes to our shopping center, to our work, is mostly an unpleasant experience. And so Elim Valley, if you look at the way Elim Valley is designed and laid out, it's laid out with a grid of streets the way houses once were. There's alleys behind the streets so that the garages can be positioned on the rear of lots, freeing the front of lots for places for porches, for windows, for front courtyards to relate to the street. And then the sidewalks are 6 foot wide. The streets are tree-lined with beautiful shade trees. The beautiful selection of street signs and street lights all kind of add furniture to these outdoor rooms and spaces that people can love once again. And so it's the rebuilding of a beautiful experience of walking from your home to the town square, to your neighborhood grocery store, to the amenities of the community, the swimming pool, the beautiful trails that you can access in Elim Valley. All of these elements are part of a new urbanism, a way of living better. Most of the homes are oriented towards parks, open park squares or green belts. In many cases, homes are above some of the commercial area that synergizes the commercial to make the retail work and vibrant. It's an effort to restore the quality of life back into people's life. They also discovered when they studied these villages that the villages were often built by local craftsmen, and this resulted in an agreement of architectural style. In trying to find a way to create timeless architecture for Elim Valley, we went and studied the history of this local area. All of Utah has great pioneer heritage, but this area in particular has a really unique story of pioneer heritage in that the pioneers who came to this area originated from Europe. When you research the history of the Elim Valley area, you'll find that the early pioneers to the hurricane area came directly here from England. Two original founders to the hurricane area came from England, the Spinloves and the Hintons. We decided to pay an homage to these early pioneers by using Northern European, particularly English vernacular, to be the central architectural style. But true to the way that people from Britain would have designed when they colonized an area, they might have brought their British attitude and their British vernacular to the area, but they would have adapted to the local climate and the local region. And so an important part of the Elim Valley architectural story is that although they came with their Northern European attitude, they adapted to this local favorable climate that's here in southern Utah and developed homes that centered around courtyards, outdoor living rooms, outdoor dining rooms, and homes that truly interacted with the great outdoors that we have here in southern Utah. The third part of our architecture, though, although we're starting with the English vernacular, that's, St. George geology is a unique and colorful desert landscape, and an important part of our architectural idea was to use colors and materials from this area, so that our style that would evolve out of this concept of a British attitude and outdoor living was that we would have colors and materials that would make it sit softly in this landscape and feel like it belonged here. So over time, Elim Valley will develop into an Elim Valley style of architecture that's the combination of these three big architectural ideas. We all desire exclusivity and want to have something truly unique, and in the conventional way of building it, we seek that by designing like a house that is extremely beautiful and interesting. But when that same house is repeated, as it so often is in conventional development, with each additional house, the exclusivity declines. But in a new urban community, though the houses may be simple in their architectural form and massing, by having like a quality exterior and infinite detail in the construction of the home, each additional house creates an intrinsic value. And when care is done in placing that house and having it appropriate to the community, exclusivity rises and you actually develop a great sense of place over time. The groundwork of a home that is going to have great value and be valued over time is laid sometimes hundreds of years before the value is actually realized. The decision that you will live on a slightly curving street with trees that will eventually become large and create an umbrella over the street, and that the street lights are in the right proportion to the human scale, the decision that garages will be set back, sometimes that decision is made maybe 20, 30, 50 years before the real values begun. But then if you look at some of the great historic neighborhoods across America and you drive in there, you say, I love this neighborhood, I love the beautiful architecture, I love the feeling in this neighborhood. And what's really neat to understand is that that decision to create that location was made by the developer before any house was even built. And that's what you see at Elim Valley right now. You see the decisions being made that will one day make Marla one of the most loved places. One of the principles that DPZ discovered when designing Most Loved Towns is that they discovered that there was a natural transition in villages and authentic towns where, if you will imagine taking a country road and driving from out in the countryside and that road winding towards the village center, you would see a transition in everything along the way. The way maybe in the rural area, the trees varied in species and were randomly placed. But as those trees reached the town center, the trees became the same species and were orderly marching down the street. The nature of the street itself might begin as a road without curb and gutter and sidewalk, but as it reaches the middle part, it might begin to have parkways and sidewalks and trees evenly spaced. But then as you reach the town square, that becomes highly urban, where you see pavers and tree wells and the same species of trees. It becomes much more formal, but all things could be observed that way. The type of houses in the rural area, you see country homes and manor homes, and as you get to the urban square, you see more town homes and homes that are placed over retail. All of these observations, DPZ studied the different patterns as you move from rural to urban and called the different observation transects. So in defining these different things, they developed a code system that's actually a design code, and Elim Valley was laid out according to this transect method color coding the different parts of the development and defining before anything was built areas that would be rural, transition areas, and urban areas, and then writing a design code that defines the appropriate house in that area. Like in our rural areas, we have country and manor homes. In our transitional area, we have homes and cottages and garden courtyard homes. And then as we get to our urban area, we have townhomes, flex homes, live works, and our commercial area. In addition to using DPZ, Elim Valley felt that we needed to have the best architects to design our first neighborhood of homes. One of the architects we used is Bassini and Lagoni, who are the authors of 3 very popular coffee table books on homes that feature outdoor courtyard living. The other architect we used was Mark Shire, who is an architect who's won more awards from the National Home Building Association than any other living architect, and is a master at developing floor plans and housing concepts that are both innovative and promote the lifestyles that people want to live in our time. Another instrumental architect that we used was Robert Heide, and Robert Heide is a master, and we owe a great thanks to developing the thematic architectural style of Elim Valley. He truly captured all of the elements that we chose to emphasize: the European attitude, the outdoor living, and an understanding of the materials and colors of this area. In addition to our homes, it was important for us when we started to talk about our commercial and retail area that we seek out the best of the best in that department too. And for that we went to Callison Architects. They're the largest retail planner in the world and have been involved in instrumental projects across the United States. Currently, they're participating in rebuilding the retail at the World Trade Center in New York. But they're also doing one of the most prominent projects in the United States right now, the City Creek project in Salt Lake City, Utah. But we went to them partly because they, of all the different retail architects, approach architecture in a way that's consistent with the Elim Valley concept of nourished life. Right out of the gate, Elim Valley is like opening their first neighborhood with over 30 house plans, and each individual house plan has 3 elevations to choose from. We have well over 100 homes that you can select right from the beginning of Elim Valley, and the homes are carefully placed on the lots in accordance to this concept of transecting. One of the nice things is that we have homes that range from as small as 1,200 square feet to over 4,000 square feet. And one of the most beautiful parts of Elim Valley is that we found ways that smaller homes can live like larger homes. And that's through the incorporation of outdoor living space. Just as important as the architecture, and maybe even more important to the whole experience of living in Elim Valley, is going to be the landscaping. This area is an area that has been just as carefully planned as the homes. We've hired one of the best landscape architecture firms in the country right now, which is the Collaborative West out of San Clemente, California. They delved into this concept of new urbanism and designed landscaping in a way that hasn't been seen in this area before. A lot of people come here to winter, and in this environment a lot of the plants will go dormant. So Collaborative West took great care to do a selection of plant species that would make this a year-round experience. One of the key elements when laying out Elim Valley is DPZ was careful to lay out all of the streets so that the streets lined up with key views around Elim Valley. Some of our roads look into Zion's National Park or Pine Valley Mountain. All of the streets in town are designed up that even when the homes are fully built out, streets will still orient to these beautiful views. And walking down the streets on sidewalks that are 6 feet wide, which allow you to walk side by side, will allow you to always enjoy the views that are available in Elim Valley. One thing that you'll notice in Elim Valley is that, true to the transect concept, the paving experience as you walk on our trails and our sidewalks and our plazas changes by the transect. So if you're walking in our urban area, you might be walking on decomposed granite and listening to the sound of the rocks crush under your feet. As you walk through some of the neighborhood areas where our homes, you'll be walking on beautiful 6-foot wide sidewalks. But when you get to our village square, the curbs disappear and you're walking on beautiful pavers as if you're walking on a European plaza. And that truly denotes the urban experience that you're having as you walk.